Before Boris Karloff's portrayal of Frankenstein's monster made him a household name, the actor had toiled tirelessly to build a career in the silent era. With his looming figure and distinctive features, he found steady work, but was often relegated to bit parts in adventure and crime serials. Due in part to his Indian ancestry, Karloff's roles were typically exotic foreign characters, curiously foreshadowing his performance as Imhotep in The Mummy, another key moment in his road to stardom. Among his vast list of silent credits, there is one film and one role that truly stands out to me, namely the 1926 thriller The Bells, featuring his sinister character, the Mesmerist. With a plot centered around money, power, and murder, with hints of supernatural intrigue peppered in for good measure, it is plain to see why The Bells was a popular story of its time. It began as a French stage play in the 1860s, and found larger international acclaim when it was translated into English shortly thereafter. The play continued to be a success for decades, so a film adaptation was inevitable. But why have one adaptation when you can have 10 adaptations? Yes, between 1911 and 1935, the tale was repeatedly remade across Britain, America, and Australia. But it is this American film from 1926 which has stood the test of time, surviving as the definitive screen version. Lionel Barrymore plays Matthias, the story's troubled protagonist. On the surface, he may seem like a man who has it all. He's an innkeeper and businessman who is very popular with the locals, and he has a loving wife and beautiful daughter to boot. Alas, everything is not as it seems. While he undoubtedly has some sway in the village, he yearns for more, vying to be elected as the next burgomaster. His popularity isn't inherently based on good character either. To the dismay of his family, he's handing out free drinks and services willy-nilly, supplying them to the locals on credit that he never intends to collect upon. Instead, he casually reminds the villagers to think of him when it's time to appoint the new burgomaster. Sneaky, sneaky Matthias, but also risky, risky Matthias. You can't run businesses on handouts and squandered profits. So, this political scheming has left him in severe debt. As the pressures mount to pony up the owed cash, the innkeeper's situation turns deadly. Christmas rolls around, an expensive and miserable holiday at the best of times. A travelling businessman wanders into Matthias's establishment, seeking shelter and supper. Matthias is happy to oblige, but his interest peaks when he spies the man's money belt, stuffed with gold.
I love gold!
Drunk on liquor and desperation, he follows the man out into the snowy blizzard and murders him with an axe. It's a great scene of drama. His devious eureka moment embellished by the sudden filter change and a dark switch in the soundtrack, the evil plan forming in his cruel face before our eyes. The kill itself is noteworthy. The moody, snow-swept setting matches the evil of his actions, and we are treated to a very early example of horror cinema's most reused trope. As the axe makes the killing blow, we cut to a nearby location, where a smattering of blood forms. This is a lazy trope these days, where censorship and makeup effects are no longer such concerns. But here, it is appropriate and utilised well. Dark blood on bright snow will always be a winning formula. Under the guise of an invented inheritance, Matthias pays off the debts with the dead man's gold, and fortune seems to turn in his favour. His dream of becoming burgomaster is realised, and he secures a dowry for his daughter to marry the well-respected, handsome policeman in town. But what is that old saying? Crime doesn't pay? In the classic vein of an Edgar Allan Poe tale, the guilt of his actions and the paranoia of getting caught rip through this man like an abundance of Vindaloo curry. Ropes remind him of nooses, his stained hands go full Macbeth, and the ghost of the victim with his haunting ringing bells becomes a frequent visitor at the inn. His own daughter's wedding, what should be the happiest day of recent memory, is rendered tortuous as the church bells echo the ghostly ringing that curses him so. Worse still, the murdered man's brother has come to town, obsessed with the pursuit of justice, keeping the crime a constant hot-button topic in the community. And with him, he enlists the talents of the Mesmerist, played by our good friend, Boris Karloff. Right from his introduction, the Mesmerist makes his mark on the movie. A performing magician with intense prowess in the art of hypnotism, he boldly claims he can effortlessly make any man reveal his deepest secrets. The strange character takes a disturbing interest in Matthias, even before the murder occurs. He sees the torment brewing inside him, becoming relentlessly drawn to him, literally stalking the protagonist through the crowds, eager to pry into his twisted mind. It's a very simple scene, but it manages to propel the first act into new thrilling territory before the plot takes its murderous turn, and that is purely thanks to Karloff himself. When he's later employed to bring Matthias down, literally becoming the personified figure of his paranoia, Karloff only gets better. The man had a mastering of body language, as he would continue to prove in his later career, again aided by distinct character designs to heighten his talent. In terms of his facial acting, Karloff only employs 2 expressions for the entire role. Normally that would be a criticism of an actor, a performance lacking in range or creativity. On this occasion, that is not at all the case. The silent era was understandably occupied with actors with very emotive faces and flailing limbs, as they only had the visuals to express themselves with. Therefore, when Karloff conversely keeps dead still, bearing only a stony-faced stare, but slips into an authentically creepy grin when sinister matters are inferred to, you take notice. By being unnaturally reserved and collected, the performance makes far more impact than that of the flippy-floppy clowns. The Mesmerist can still be classed as a bit part, a small supporting role that is absent for long stretches of time. But even when he's not present in a scene, the knowledge that the character is on Matthias' trail constantly bolsters the tension. Of all his silent roles, the Mesmerist is also probably the closest to the horror characters that would propel him into fame. The film is good, with clear thematics, fun ghostly scenes playing with double exposure, the Crispus axe murder, and a very fine turn from Barrymore. But the unknown Karloff elevates it to another level. For all these reasons, I would call this his first great role, and one that any Karloff fan should seek out.